The SureFact Group has grown and grown and grown. If you'd like to learn how SureFact has grown from starting with doing investigations for insurance companies to now having an aerial unit that looks after high asset value risk protection, as well as how they've now got SureStaff Global, where they're providing staff out of the Philippines for people all throughout Australasia and beyond, and much more, then join me with my next guest, Pat Henderson, the CEO of the SureFact Group. Let's go.
Hi folks, welcome to the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast by Gary Ryan from Organisations That Matter. In this podcast, Gary shares everything about servant leadership, service leadership, authentic leadership, how to create high performance cultures, service excellence and life balance. Here's your host, Gary Ryan.
Thank you, Sienna, for your lovely introduction. Folks, we've got Pat Henderson here from the SureFact Group. He's the CEO and Managing Director. Pat, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks, Gary. I really appreciate the introduction and looking forward to having a really great, insightful discussion with you today.
I'm looking forward for it as well. And we've known each other since some of our kids were at primary school together many years ago. They're all getting pretty big now.
My young fella's certainly dwarfing me now and making me feel a bit old.
And folks, if you actually saw Pat and I standing together, you would know it's quite an effort to dwarf Pat. He's a fair bit bigger than me, so it's pretty cool. So with the SureFact Group, just let everyone know, what does the SureFact Group do, because we've been growing a little bit lately.
Yeah, absolutely. So the SureFact Group is a professional services group of companies, and some of our brands within the group is the SureFact Australia. Now, SureFact Australia is a investigations company. That's our core pillar of service in that division. So we do all sorts of investigations, from personal injury, insurance-related personal injury. That's what we specialise in. We do a lot of HR, misconduct, workplace investigations. We do a lot of integrity type investigations for insurers, mystery shopper programs and things of that nature. So we've got a significant client base in that particular area. And we also do a lot of covert type scenarios, so surveillance, as I touched on before, mystery shopper programs, organised, thefts and things of that nature. So, yeah, we do a lot in that space. We also have a security risk consultancy arm in that business. So we go out and we do security risk assessments or gap analysis, bringing organisations from where they are with their current security posture up to what best practice would be to secure their assets. So it could be electronic security infrastructure, could be just processes and standing operating procedures. We also do a lot of manpower security, but in the logistics and warehousing distribution centres. So we organise the security of assets in that particular environment. And, that probably encompasses everything in SureFact Australia. We've got another brand called SureFact Aerial, which is a drone business. And we got into that purely as a result of the security activities we did. So, instead of, getting someone to patrol a site mobile, it's actually a lot safer to do by the air. So you can actually go and do a big site, do a patrol with a drone. It's got thermal cameras, so you can see, anything from, in a night environment, you can see anything that's around, so it's much safer. So then we evolved that into doing like asset inspection. We do a lot in the distribution electrical space, so distribution power and transmission power. So instead of getting someone to climb an asset, we would actually send a drone up and get imagery of the asset. And in some occasions, what we can do is we can actually take a 3D model of that particular asset. So the engineers can actually do the inspection and make sure everything's working okay to keep everyone on the network. We also have a business called Sure Protect, which goes into a bit of that security aspect where we provide, like the asset protection. We do a lot of CPP work, so close personal protection for high net worth individuals, which is fantastic. And then we've got some businesses. We've got SureFact New Zealand. So we've actually expanded in New Zealand, where we've got an operation for one of our existing clients. So we do a mystery shopper program and various types of investigations with a couple of our key clients in New Zealand. And we've also got a regional head office in Southeast Asia. So we've got a operation based in Cebu, the Philippines, and that provides security and investigation services in that region. I should also say we're actually fully national. So we've got, we're head office in Melbourne, in Moorabbin. We also have an office in Parramatta in New South Wales. And so we are fully operational. We do have operations in other countries, as I mentioned. And also we've got another business which we call SureStaff Global. What that is, it's providing outsourced talent to businesses that are trying to scale. So we have, over 500 candidates on our book based in the Philippines. And what they do, so you may want a social media marketing manager. You can come through us. We do the onboarding. We match the talent with the culture of the organisation, and we do the placement, and we sort of coordinate and facilitate introductions to top-tier talent in the Philippines. It could be, as I said, social media marketing, could be accountants, bookkeepers, virtual assistants, architects, nurses. It's just Pandora's box, really. There's so much talented staff over there. So, what we're finding is that there is a key push towards getting talent over there to help. A lot of businesses like I had, you sort of go through the process and you hit a wall, and it's about how do I scale? And this is a good tool to actually help and assist businesses to scale their operations.
Look, it's the biggest challenge that so many companies are facing is how do I scale, and especially when I'm not quite got the revenue there yet, and how do I do that and still be able to manage my staff expenses and one of the beauties of having SureStaff Global is that you've got access to highly qualified, talented, in this case, Filipino staff who are able to slot in, able to obviously communicate in English as well, and be able to help businesses here in Australia scale. And it's been interesting because there are a number of businesses in this space that are opening up, and some folk have said to me, Pat, well, that's taking jobs off Australians.
Yes.
Right. And I get it. I get that perspective. I'd be interested in your response to that question about, well, that's taken Aussie jobs, so that's bad for us. So how do you explain the reality of actually what's happening and how, in fact, the impact is the opposite?
Absolutely. So from my own experiences, we had a real challenge. So we would, in our parts of our business, whether it's SureFact Aerial or SureProtect, we found it difficult to actually hire, recruit staff. So when I always recruit people, I look at character and how they fit and culture. And if they're going to fit into the environment, we can teach them the skills and what's required to perform that role. What we were finding is we would go out and recruit and hire, and then what would happen is that would have them for 3 or 4 months, and it's not just a financial investment, it's a time investment. So we invest time bringing them up, giving them the skills to succeed in the role, and then all of a sudden, they might get an opportunity elsewhere for $2,000 or $3,000 more, and instead of having a discussion with us, they would just go and leave. So we had a lot of sort of turnover, and so we're like, okay, how can we combat this? Because it was an issue, because all we were doing was spinning our wheels, and it was taking us away from what we had to do, was drive the business and drive the growth. So we looked at how to do that, and it was actually that going offshore to the Philippines. We started with 2 people in our SureFact Aerial business and our security business, and we've probably got about 10 or so staff in there that do the back office support of coordination, scheduling jobs, with clients within the aerial business, looking at the compliance for aerial and things of that nature, where, they just really excel in that environment. They probably they're grateful, they are very well educated, they speak fantastic English, and it actually just combated that. And then we had a look, and it's like, okay, this is something we can commercialise, because a lot of the roles people are in Australia particularly aren't interested in doing. That's the reality, is that they don't want to come in as an admin, or they don't want to come in and do something like that. So there is a gap in the market where those roles are difficult to fill. So if we can get a really skilled candidate at a fraction of the cost, it's a win-win, because as a business owner, you care about your bottom line and you care about being profitable. And, you know, in our business, for example, we could have 5 outsourced staff for the cost of 1 in Australia. So it makes sense. And, you know, particularly in our security business, where it's a 24/7 operation, we've got staff that's manning it 24/7. So, you know, taking calls, if there's been an alarm or something of that nature, it's 24/7 operation.
Yeah, and having that staff capability across that whole time frame is so powerful for you. And equally, what to counter again that argument that people say about it's taking Australian jobs, it's actually helping SureFact grow like it does any other company. And with you growing, you're staying in business, you're growing. That means you're interacting with other businesses in Australia and, as we've seen, in New Zealand and globally as well for you. But that means those businesses get to stay in business. They get to keep staff. Like, there's actually a massive upside to Australian businesses. Again, as you highlighted, Pat, for jobs that people don't really want to do, and or there tends to be high turnover in, which creates a lot of its own headaches, then why not go and look at an option like SureStaff, where folk can access staff? Now, is it just full-time staff you're doing that you're sourcing for people, or is it also...
you know, it could be a client that needs 5 hours a week of social media assistance, so we would provide that. So it's on whatever you require. So it could be a couple of hours a week, it could be 40 hours a week, it could be 5 staff, 40 hours a week, it could be a 24/7 operation. Because look, particularly in Australia, a lot of the clients that we would sort of target are security companies. Because if you look at a security company, right, the cost for security in when like inflation and you've got the economic pressures in an organisation, the first thing that's cut is the security budget. But it's probably the most important thing. Securing your assets, you know, reducing your shrinkage and things of that nature. So to be competitive in that landscape, right, you need, like, your cost of goods needs to be right on point. You've got to get your pricing model 100% correct. So if you've got your support staff that you know, there's that cost reduction, you actually can be more competitive your price can remain the same, but your profit margin on that is a lot greater. So, you know, it does help. It keeps people in business. It helps. It creates, I guess, you know, competitive pricing, doesn't blow pricing out of the water. You know, like for us in our security business, you know, we can compete because we can be really sharp with our pricing. Because we know. So, it has that flow-on effect that no one thinks about.
So with some of the language, just for the uneducated that might be tuning into us here, so when you talk about assets, for example, and you were talking about electricity supply, etc. So an asset, my understanding, would be literally the wires themselves and the pylon structures that the wires hang off, that everyone's seen when they're driving along a country road. And that's where SureFact Aerial's able to get in there. It's much safer because you can be on a road somewhere or and some open space, send up the drone and off you go and do the assessments of an asset. CPP, close personal protection. Some people would know that as a bodyguard.
Yeah, bodyguard, absolutely.
That's right. Now, one of the questions I always like to ask people, because you've been in business for how long now? Because it's quite a while.
12 years. We started with SureFact Australia 12 years ago.
Yeah. So the name SureFact, I always like to know, why did you call it SureFact? And it's like a fingerprint, that your logo. Yeah.
It is. So my background, I come from a risk background. So people risk, health and safety. And what I was looking for, I worked within the insurance and risk management industry, and I sort of wanted a career break, and I wanted to sort of diversify and get out of what I was pigeonholed in that particular area. And I was looking at my skill set and what it could do, and I saw an opportunity in the investigations industry for investigations company that really understands what's required of insurance and risk, rather than, you know, there was a limited expertise in that particular area. So what I tried to really do was focus on, I think, your name is really critical to your success. If people need to know what you do in order to utilize your services. So what I wanted to do was create surety. So if you come with us, you're going to get surety and fact. Like that's what we do. We find facts. So, we're independent fact finders. So, a large component of some of our work we do is factual investigations. So we go out as an independent person to get the factual information on a particular issue scenario, and then come back and compile a report with witness statements and accounts of what's occurred in a factual basis and provide it to the insurance company, the law firm, or whoever it may be for them to make a decision. So that's how we sort of brought that together. So we're providing surety and we're providing factual information. So that's where the name SureFact was born.
And one of the reasons why the insurance companies come and engage you to do this work for them, because just again for folk to understand is that if from an insurance company point of view, if someone's putting in false claims and committing fraud effectively, they need to have the evidence to prove that that is actually the case, that this person actually doesn't have this major back injury, because we're watching them load 20-kilogram bags onto the back of a ute 5 days a week, and we've got the evidence to highlight that that's actually what's going on. So there's that's sort of some of that for that part of your business. That's a big part of what you do, which is why the surety and the facts matter.
Exactly. And just like, particularly in Victoria, there was a legislation change just recently. So mental health claims is a significant issue, I guess, across all jurisdictions in the workers' compensation arena. So particularly in Victoria, that they actually changed the eligibility to get compensation for a mental health injury or stress claim or whatever the case may be. Right. So what they say now, the act was changed to say that if you're overworked and you've got stress because you're overworked, it's no longer compensable. So they're saying, yes, you might have a stress condition and you might have the symptoms and you might be diagnosed with a mental health injury. But however, the legislation changes that because you're overworked, it doesn't mean it's compensable anymore. So there are other sort of unique challenges to identify is that, okay, we've got to ascertain what was the causation of that particular mental injury. Was it overworked, or was it because they're bullied in the workplace or something else? And if they're bullied, and the information, well, yes, that could be considered compensable, but under a particular scenario, it may not be. So a lot of mental health claims have to be investigated from a factual standpoint to determine whether or not they have a compensable injury or not.
And I would assume, because it is very topical, Pat, and of course we obviously feel for folk that are having mental health challenges, and really there's not a person on earth that doesn't get to, our ages, that's for sure, and not have had some sort of mental health challenges at some point in their journey. But equally, I imagine that some folks' mental health challenges aren't in the workplace. They may be caused outside of the workplace, but the workplace is the place where they make the claim to try and get compensation. Now,
So in that sort of scenario, what they're looking at is that they would then go, so they would refer to someone like ourselves to undertake a factual investigation and get all the information, and we would compile a report that would go to the insurance company. But the insurance company would also request a report from the treater of the injured person, so it might be their GP or psychologist, and they would get information about what the diagnosis is, what the treatment is, what medication they're having. But then also they would then send it to an independent medical. So it'd be like if it's a stress claim, it would be a psychiatrist, and then they would actually assess the injured worker, and then they would provide a medical diagnosis or a medical report, and it might say, yes, there are alternative factors causing the stress. The workplace is the secondary issue, but it's not compensable because it's not a work-related injury. So then that would really the determination of liability comes down to what the independent doctor would say. But the independent doctor would review our report, the treater's report, and the physical assessment, and then provide their diagnosis and recommendations.
It might be an impossible question, so please feel free to say it's an impossible question to answer, Gary. Is there like a normal time frame that this whole process, like if someone submitted a claim, like how long could they on average, and I appreciate that there's always going to be variations, but how long would they anticipate a process like that would take, Pat?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Victoria, it's mandated and legislated by the government. So in Victoria, you've got 28 days. The insurance company has 28 days to make a decision. That's the time clock starts straight away. So in that 28 days in Victoria, they have to refer the matter on to someone like myself. They have to request a treater's report from the GP or treater. They have to get an independent doctor. And can you imagine, like, the scheme's under so much pressure because independent doctors, they aren't, there isn't a huge, the pool of independent doctors is shrinking all the time. So it's so difficult. Like, I've got a knee injury and I've got to go see a specialist. It might take me 6 weeks to get into to see my specialist. They've got to get them in within 3 weeks. So it's a huge burden on the scheme. And yeah, so there is a really reduced time frame to do that. That's just Victoria. You know, if we look at New South Wales, for example, they've got provisional liability, so they can accept the claim for a period of 12 weeks whilst they get the information to make a decision, yes or no. So potentially it could get accepted provisionally in New South Wales, and then they get the evidence and then it's rejected, or it could go on to be continued to be accepted. So it's sort of what the problem is, in particularly in Australia, there's no national harmonisation. So each state runs the scheme. So in Victoria, you've got WorkSafe that run the scheme. In New South Wales, you've got Sierra and iCare that run the scheme. Then Queensland, you've got QComp, so that's like a state-based organisation. Then you've got risk states, so it's the insurers. So like in Tasmania, ACT, UA, NT, like the insurer underwrites the risk. So there is competitiveness. So if I go to QBE and that's my business, and then I can go, my broker will go get a quote from Allianz and my premium will be cheaper. Whereas in Vic and New South Wales, your premium doesn't change depending on which agent you go to.
That's for what we would call work cover in those states. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, I know, and I want to make sure we tap into this topic because I know you're passionate about it. One of your passions is around leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, And what would be some of like 1, 2, or 3 of the key drivers for you from a leadership perspective that you believe in?
So for me, I grew up sort of playing elite sport. So I wasn't, and I'm not ashamed to admit, academically at school, I wasn't the best. I was a bit of a scallywag and I didn't concentrate, and I thought I was going to play 300 games of AFL and education wasn't important. And then, things don't go to plan. But a lot of my leadership experience comes from playing in elite sporting teams, so playing football, and it's everyone's got to really be on the same page. There's no weak links. Everyone's got to buy into the direction and be engaged and be moving as one. So for me, I always love to lead by example, so much so that I'm always on the tools. But that's also showing my team that, hey, listen, I'll still get out there. I'll roll the sleeves up. I'll do what's required, and particularly some of the security stuff we do. It could be a high or a volatile environment, or it could be a higher level of risk associated with it. I will never send one of my guys to do it. I always will go out and do it, so they can, see that, hey, I'm not just going to sit in my ivory tower and throw out, you need to do this. I'll be out with you doing it. So, leadership is really, really important. I'd never expect someone to do something I wouldn't do. I think it's really important to give everyone the ability to walk their own path and make their own mistakes. So, for example, if someone's going, I like my leadership team to have the ability and comfort that they can make decisions.
Yeah.
So they don't have to always come to me, but they're empowered to make the decisions because that's important.
Yeah.
And they know that our, what our cultural environment is. They know how we base our decisions and all of that nature. So, like, it's about empowerment. I've got, like, one of my proudest moments in the business is not necessarily some of the big and exciting projects we've done. It's about this gentleman that came into the business, and he also come from a professional sporting background, and he started off in our administration team, and I just saw something in him, and same sort of thing. Didn't have strong education background and things of that nature. And no, my proudest moment would be is like mentoring and seeing him evolve as a person and as an employee from an admin team to our group manager of operations and partnerships in 4 years. Like, it's been a fantastic transition. That excites me. I've got another exceptional staff member who, same thing, she started off 8 years ago in our admin team. She came from the Philippines. She had a lot of challenges trying to get a permanent visa. She was on student visa doing certain courses. Then the goalpost shifted, and then she had to go and do another course. SureFact sponsored her, but for 8 years, starting off in our admin team to being our surveillance manager to being now our head of business optimization and process and governance. She's the DNA of SureFact, our longest employee, and just, absolutely killing it. And then you've got like our general manager of special projects who's come from a law enforcement background, who was in law enforcement for, 25 plus years, coming from that public service and coming into, the private sector and just absolutely killing it, taking our special projects division from here to here. So, like the things I look at, the wins aren't, that we've picked up this project. That's watching our people succeed, in the business. Somewhat of the support in that. And having said that too, I've lost good people because we've supported them and then got them to a certain level and they get headhunted out of the organisation. And it's great to, it's a loss to me, but it's great, for them personally. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's 100%. I mean, and, for you to emphasise, being on the same page, leading by example, people being able to be clear about the decisions they can make. And as a result of that, then mistakes can be made and we can learn as an individual and as a group along the way. And then the mentoring, development and growth of people, Pat, is really, really significant. What are going to be, because we've covered quite a lot of ground, what would be some of the best ways or the best way for folk to reach out to you to make some contact if there's anything that you've touched upon? That could be from SureFact Aerial, it could be from SureFact Australia, it could be SureFact New Zealand. It could be someone going, I need some people to do some mystery shopping for us in New Zealand because I'm based in Wellington or whatever the case may be, or through to SureStaff Global. What's going to be the best ways to reach out to you, Pat?
Well, we've never marketed, to be honest. It's all been word of mouth, but just this year, we've invested in a fantastic website. So we've got the SureFact Group landing page, which you go onto that, which would be www.surefactgroup.com. And what you can do is then you can select the business. So it'll be SureFact Australia. You click on that. The SureFact Australia website is www.surefactaustralia.com. And the Aerial and some of the other ones are just currently under construction because we're just rolling them out sort of systematically at the moment. But feel free to go onto our website. Alternatively, you can email me direct, which is phenderson@surefact.com.au. And just feel free to ask me anything. As I said, I'm always happy to help. I look at myself, broadly as, our business is quite unique and we're really good at solving people's problems, outside the box thinking. So if you've got like a unique problem or an issue that you need assistance and you don't know where to go, please feel free to reach out because we're happy to assist.
Yeah, and another place people can find you is LinkedIn, because I know you're very active there as well. So there's plenty of options, but probably the shining light is the SureFactGroup.com, folks. That is the place where all things SureFact can be accessible. Pat, there is a last question.
Yes.
And I would like to, and because it is called the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast. What does the phrase moving beyond being good mean to you?
For me, it's about not being complacent. Like the moment you stop learning, you just stop, everything stops. So, you never stop learning at all. So for me, like I've got a really entrepreneurial mindset. Like I'm not satisfied. Like, I'm not satisfied. Okay, the group, revenue is X. I'm not satisfied that. I want to 10X everything. So I'm always moving forward. I'll take risks. So for me, I'm always want to move forward, and I'm very competitive coming from my sporting background. So I'm not happy at just winning by a goal. I want to excel. I think I do. I take that mindset in everything I do. So I'm tenacious. I'm demanding on my goals. I'm demanding on myself, and I reflect on myself a lot about how. And it's not about making mistakes. It's a learning moment. Okay, what did I learn in that moment? How can I be better? What can I do different? So for me, I want to be the best version of myself I can be for my staff. Like we've got, 25 employees. So I've got to make decisions that affect 25 people. So I've got to, that's pressure. So for me, it's never about being complacent.
No, and what a great answer. And you know what I also love about that answer to the question is you did say there in the chat that, school wasn't your thing. I wasn't great academically at school. And yet your answer about what moving beyond being good was fundamentally all about learning and continuous learning. And so for folk out there that might have had some challenges with the education system and it might not have worked for you, time and time again, and Pat's another example of this, where the entrepreneurs in the world are people that maybe school actually wasn't that fantastic for, but they're unbelievable learners at the same time. And that when you found your space with the opportunity to start SureFact 12 years ago, you've just continued to shine. As you said, also a pattern we see with successful people is they're never satisfied. Like they don't just, you can't live on yesterday's success.
Exactly.
Because it's already yesterday, right? It's like we and it's not just wanting things, more things for more things' sake. It's about you're actually having an impact. Like you said, you got 25 staff. Like they're relying on you for keeping them employed, gainfully employed. They're relying on you to drive the growth of the organisation, which is why there's so many variations of what SureFact does. It's still within the fundamentally the same box, of course. It's interesting. You manage risk, but you're prepared to take risk to grow.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
I love that connection. So, Pat, I want to thank you for coming along and joining us on the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast.
Thank you, Gary. I really appreciate it. And it was a fantastic opportunity. And I certainly enjoy watching your podcasts and what you do. And you're doing an exceptional job out there. And so keep it going.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And folks, so you'll have all the links for Pat and the SureFact Group in the links below. So make sure you go check them out. Definitely reach out to Pat. We do appreciate you for joining us here in the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast. And I look forward to you joining us next time.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary.